Good morning, afternoon and evening, my crazies. My name's Angela and I'm the Crazy Poppy Lady. Right, so today we are here for the second edition of How Crazy Is This Crazy? I'm still working through the questions from video Whips and Bits 16, I think it is. So let's put them up and let's see what the first question is. Right, here we go. Right, so my first one is from Donna, and she says, what's my favourite genre of music? Now, I've got a really eclectic taste. It really does depend on the mood at that moment as to what I listen to. So I've got a collection of CDs, and yes, I haven't gone as far as iPodding it or any of that other technical stuff. I'm still on CDs, which is good because it means I can use them in the car. But it ranges from dodgy 80s disco, bit of 70s disco, bit of 90s disco. I've got Meatloaf, Madness, UB40, Queen, Def Leppard. See, I'm pulling out some oldies for us oldies. And then I've got newer stuff. Oh, I can't even think of them at the moment, but normally I go for the more like the collection of now, like the CD collections now and things like that, because it gives you a mixture of all music, so you can just skip it if you don't like it, because I don't normally go for one group over another. It is normally I choose a song and I run with that song. That's the song I like. Yeah, I can't think what I was going to say. Yeah, so for me, Meatloaf's a good one for travelling down to Essex to see the family, because you can put that CD on and it lasts for hours and hours. But as I said, I think it really does depend on the mood I'm in and how crazy my music choice is. But I do think the best song is whichever one the kids don't want me to sing and learn every word to, especially if it's one of theirs, one of like their all-time favourite bands, and I'll come in and I'll be like, sing the whole thing, or if I knew the original. Right, so my next one up is from Rune Shadowbeth. Now, she asked me to tell you the story about how I started crocheting and how I got into YouTube. Now, I have actually already said that one, so I'm going to put a link up there that will take you through to that video, because hey, it never sounds good the second time round, does it? Right, so my next one up is from Lynn. Now, she asks me, what do I do for a living? I don't. I live off my husband. I used to work in care, and I used to work with adults with challenging behaviour or disabled, so it was assisted living. Now, I absolutely loved the job and I absolutely loved the guys and girls that I looked after, but I did the normal thing which happens with quite a few of us carers and care staff and nurses and things. I slipped a disc, top and bottom for me, mind. So because of that, I'm now not safe to do the job, because say I'm with a client and they lose a bit of balance, instead of me being able to correct it for them, I've got to let them drop to the floor, and I couldn't do it. I would have to play catch, and that's how I did the discs. So I've had to give that up, and now I'm looking for something new. But after 20 years working in care, it's a bit scary trying to think of something new to go into. Right, next one up is from Gridlocks 2107. Now, they ask, do I like to cook or bake? Again, it's one of these, if the house is quiet and there's no one around and I'm feeling adventurous, then yes, the family will get something slightly different. But or I'll sit and I'll knock up a cake and do some crazy design, especially if it's around their birthdays. I like to do something like that, but I wouldn't say I'm very good at it. And if I am designing a cake for a birthday, 9 out of 10 times I've gone and bought the sponge pre-made because I'm that lazy, or I burn that many box mixes. And the next bit is, do I have any hobbies? My hobby is crochet now. At one point it was photography, so hopefully I'll be able to mix the two so you get some half decent photographs of me, of the work that I'm doing, but there's no guarantee, is there, with me? Right, and the next one up is from Laurie. She asks, what places have I lived in? Right, you'd think because my husband was in the army we would have got to have travelled all over the world. Nah, we got to live in Wiltshire, in Hampshire, in Wiltshire again. Then we went across the water to Wales where we bought a property and lived there unaccompanied for a couple of years, but living unaccompanied didn't suit me and the girls at that point, so then we moved back into military accommodation with my husband, and that's when we moved to Gloucestershire, and we've been here about 10 years now. And that leads me really nicely into my next question from Julie. She says, why did I get involved with the poppy appeal? Right, so about nearly 6 years ago, my local branch of the Royal British Legion put a shout out because they'd sadly lost one of their gentlemen who was a collector, and so they needed someone to fill in his space, and he'd put a shout out on Facebook, and I thought, well, let's find out a bit more about it, because I'd never offered to do anything voluntary before. So got in contact with them and they sent me back a message, and we were to and fro for a little bit, just so they could get to know me and I could get to know them a bit more. Now that's where it all started. I started collecting on the tables. I was one of the guys and girls that just stood there smiling and saying, like, pick up what you like and pop your money in the tin, and it really suited me because it meant I got to meet a lot of people that I wouldn't have normally met, so it was really, really nice to be able to do that. And then about 3 years into the collection, I had a gentleman come up and he was looking at the knitted poppies that some of our local girls make, and it said, oh, these are really lovely, but it's a bit too feminine for me. I was hoping to find something to put on my cap that if it got wet it wouldn't sort of shrivel up, and that led me to thinking, well, maybe I could find a poppy pattern and make a poppy. So I spent about 2 or 3 weeks searching for the right pattern, and I finally came across the one that I've modified and shown you and shared with you, and I made a few and I took them down to my local Legion and I handed them over and I said, what do you think? And they were like, these are lovely, how many do you think you'll make? And that's when I explained the story of what my husband had done, and of course they're giggling away and they're like, well, if you manage that would be absolutely amazing to receive 1,000, but just do what you can, because of course it was all voluntary, there was no money involved. My husband had to cough up for all of the bits and pieces, excluding about 50% of the wool, because our local community actually chipped in and they collected the wool for me so that I had that much. So then that's when the poppies went on the table last year for the collection last year, and then I was still at the table collecting with all the other items that they have now as well. Oh no, I'm out of questions on Whips and Bits volume 16. I'm going to have to go and hunt for some more now. Right, that's me out of questions this time round, so I'm going to head off now. I'll see you all soon, so please stay in, stay safe. Ta-ra for now. Please record at a volume that everybody can hear this time. Recording again, wishful thinking, mark 57 million. Have I sussed it? Have I played with the settings enough? Or have I mucked it up even more?